Yes, you read the title right. I am doing movie reviews now, and welcome to the first one on this channel. So this is a slightly odd choice for the first movie review, but Game of Thrones was over, Big Bang Theory was over as well, and I didn't really have anything else to watch. And then all of a sudden I saw this and I thought I really liked the trailer, so why not just watch the movie as well? When I saw this, I remembered the trailer, which was very impressive, and I had really liked it. And I also remembered all the brutal reviews that came after the movie was out, and I never got around to watching this. I picked it with some trepidation, but I saw how good a job Harshvardhan had done in Bhavesh Joshi's Superhero, and I thought to myself, let's go and see why were the reviews so bad. Obviously, it is based on the Punjabi folk story of Mirza and Sahiba. There were a lot of good things, and when I started watching this, the first sequence is so captivating. It is done so well. And unsurprisingly, a lot of reviewers have praised the cinematography of this movie. It is absolutely beautiful, the way the camera floats around in the landscape, whether it is Ladakh or Rajasthan or wherever else they've shot this movie. All the frames are so beautifully done. In terms of the cast, Harshvardhan has done a good job, but he was limited by something, and I will talk about that towards the end of this video. I wasn't too impressed by Saiyami. I think the way she delivered her dialogues left a lot to be desired. She could have improved that a lot. There wasn't any conviction in it. The other person who caught my attention was Zeenath. This is another intriguing character that wasn't explored too much in the movie. I love the music. I think it was really, really good. I have seen a lot of people complaining about the Layer Mehndi and how it came in abruptly during a lot of scenes within the movie, and that spoiled the fun for them. But I really liked it. Almost all the songs that were there, when you listen to them in isolation, they were really good, very high quality. The way it was edited and the way they were placed is where the movie fell flat. And if you've seen any other reviews, you know the common things that people have complained about. So they have said these parallel narratives did not work. It stopped the flow of the story. The music came in abruptly. And then these contemporary dance sequences that were there, they didn't really gel with the stories, and they were more of a distraction. To an extent, I agree with all of them. But before we go into the negatives, if you see the sequence in the beginning, which is what pulled in a lot of people and was the main focus of the trailer, and I think that hooked a lot of people. That was very well shot. It cannot be faulted. Maybe just the pyrotechnics with those birds on fire, with those clay birds on fire. I think that was probably the only thing that jarred a little bit, but otherwise that sequence was very, very well done. I would pay to watch a movie which showed just that parallel narrative. In terms of the technique and the look of that sequence, it's up there with the very best that I've seen anywhere. But the movie did not work because it had some very, very obvious flaws. And I don't think those flaws came from these things that most of the other reviewers have spoken about. I think it is because of a very important and significant deviation from the characters as they are shown in the folk story. So there are some spoilers if you are one of the few people who has not seen this movie and want to watch it. And I can guarantee that you are in a very, very small minority here. So there is a very significant deviation in terms of how the characters are shown, and especially Harshvardhan Kapoor's character. In the folk story, Mirza was this ace archer. He was very well renowned and feared. And a lot of the events in the story and the actions in that story flow from that kind of character that Mirza had. So he was very self-assured, very confident, bordering on arrogance, and that had a lot of significance within that story. Harshvardhan, although in the parallel sequence, the age-old story that is being shown, in that he looked really badass, and then you get into this modern-day retelling, and he loses all of that. He is like this timid character who can barely utter his sentences. And I think that's why a lot of the things that made the Mirza Sahiba folk story so special, that went missing, and a lot of the events did not make sense. So the reason in the original story Sahiba broke the arrows of Mirza was because he was such a powerful warrior. She feared that he will kill all the brothers and cousins and everyone who had come following after them. Because of the way Harshvardhan's character was developed, that wouldn't have made sense. And that original ultimate betrayal from Sahiba, which made her kind of like the villain in the original story, was completely missing from the modern retelling. In the modern day retelling, the bullets just go missing because they were playing with it, or something on those lines. The other thing that a lot of people had complained about was the Layer Mehendi's rendition of this Mirzya. song. When you hear the folk songs, they are like that. They do project a lot of power, and this range is necessary for that to do justice to Mirza's character. And that's why it didn't really work over here, because that powerful song, that powerful voice, it did not match the character that Harshvardhan Kapoor was playing. I don't think it's Harshvardhan's fault. In my view, he played the character exactly as it was written. So this boy who has lost all his confidence, who is working in the stables. So this is how he's supposed to behave, and I think he did a really good job of that. But there wasn't enough of that arrogance from the original Mirza in the original story. And I think that's where the story fell apart. The only other gripe I had with this movie was that Om Puri's character was criminally underutilized. He had probably 1 or 2 scenes, maybe 3 scenes, and there wasn't really any weight to anything that he said or did. And that is really disappointing if you have an actor of Om Puri's caliber there. Obviously, Rakesh Om Prakash Mehra, he has his own style of making movies, and he doesn't follow the template that the rest of Bollywood does. It worked in Rang De Basanti, but ever since then he hasn't touched those heights. But that's not because his movies are not good. I think they are a little bit too arty, a little bit too complicated for the normal public, and he also gets a little bit self-indulgent. He did that in Bhag Milkha Bhag, and then he did the same over here. There were a lot of little gems there, and I already spoke about the character of Zeenat, and when she commits suicide, Om Puri's voice comes in and it says the same thing that was said when Harshvardhan and Saiyami's characters were children. And it just shows you how much thought has been put into this movie and the story. But I think this deviation from the original story, it just upset the balance of everything that was being shown. And that ultimately, in my view, was the failure of this movie. What did you make of the movie? What did you make of the acting and how the whole movie was set up? If you are familiar with Mirza Sahiba's story, do you agree with what I've said is the main failure of this movie? Write it down in the comments below. And now that I have finally started doing movie reviews, if you have any suggestions, write those down in the comments as well.